This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, once again, thank you very much, guys. Good evening, good morning. This is Satish. A quick introduction about me. So, I have close to 15 years of experience in software industry, um, covering performance testing, performance engineering, product development, right? Almost entire life cycle of your software. And I've also been into this training for last 2 to 3 years, um, taking various courses, DevOps, Selenium for performance engineering, and also the K6 as well. Right, these are the few courses which I take care of from Isha. So this course specifically targeted for the K6 performance testing tool. Most of you might have been working already in LoadRunner or Jmeter, or some of you might be new to performance testing. This K6 um, as an open source tool, right? Unlike your LoadRunner or or your NeoLoad kind of a tool, which are commercial, and it's been there. At least we all know LoadRunner performance error. It's there in the field for more than 10, 15, 20 years, right? And it's been still been all. But of late, last 3 years, 4 years, we have been seeing most of the, not most, many of us are moving towards open source. One, obviously, for the cost factor, okay, and then almost the software industry itself moving to the open source, right? Be from development or testing or any other part of your life cycle, they are now been open enough to move towards the open source tools, right? So from performance testing as well, though LoadRunner is still the tool that has been widely used, last 3 years, 4 years, we have been seeing the shift. One of the shift is definitely Jmeter has been one of the go-to tool when it comes to open source, right? A very good alternate when compared to the commercial tool, and it's been something very um, successful as well, right? And following the Jmeter, there have been other tools as well, like Gatling, right? Gatling came into picture maybe 3 years back, 4 years back. Supposed to be very good competitor for Jmeter or LoadRunner, but it did not turn out to be, for whatever reasons, right? We don't know the exact reason. That is how the open source tools comes in and goes out. K6, like Jmeter, like Gatling, it is also an open source tool, right? One of the main reason why it has been uh, very much in the list of popular tools, at least last 1 year, 1.5 years, right? One, it is for the microservices, for your REST APIs. K6 seems to be very easy when it comes to from a scripting or execution and developer, right? The developers, now with the DevOps, now with the shift left, developers have to go and do this testing by themselves. So they like the K6 way of creating a script and doing the execution, right? So it is driven by developer community. From a shift left perspective, they started doing the load testing of their services. So they prefer K6. That is one of the reason it is getting popular. Second is the load generation capability. It's very lightweight. K6 engine is very lightweight, which means when you wanted to run for 10,000 or 5,000 concurrent users or very high load, comparatively you might need a very less load generator than your Jmeter or your other testing tools. That is one of the reason it is also becoming popular, right? And how the trend is going to be, people expect that SK6 is going to be widely used as an open source solution. That is the projection, and that is the reason we also wanted to have a proper session, proper training course on K6, so that we can, whoever is already good in LoadRunner or Jmeter, they can cross-skill them or upskill them into the new tool. If somebody is starting fresh, right? If they are new to performance testing itself, right? And K6 is not a bad tool to get started, because um, it's altogether a way you want to do a scripting and do all these parameters in correlation. It's something little different from the way we might be doing it in other tools. Okay, concepts are going to be same. Nothing is going to change, right? You have to create the script, either record or you create your own service-based script. Correlation, parameterization, error handling, um, think times, spacings, everything from a concept perspective, it's never going to change. You take any tool, any performance testing tool, the concepts are going to remain intact. Only the way we are going to do it is going to be different. Okay, Jmeter might be having a different UI, different way of recording it, different way of implementing your correlation or parameterization, but the concepts are still going to be there. Nothing is going to change, right? What I'll do today is I'm just going to go over the topics what we are going to cover, right? This is going to be yeah, close to um, uh, around 10 hours, 12 hours course, um, covering the basics of K6, from scripting, from script enhancements, from execution, from analysis, reporting, right? End-to-end life cycle of your performance testing, something we'll cover using the K6. Okay, so I'll just go over one by one what we're going to have it from a session perspective. Okay, so we'll start with the K6 installations. Obviously, when we wanted to have a some testing tool and use it for scripting and execution, obviously you need the tool to be installed. There are going to be few prerequisite, few softwares, right? So what I'll do is I'll just also go through a quick overview on what softwares we'll be using it. Okay. Anyway, I'll cover it in detail from tomorrow. What are tools we are going to install it, how we are going to use it, right? But from a software perspective, even during the training, right, for you to practice it, okay, all you need is K6. You will download it from the K6 site, okay, and then like LoadRunner, if you have done using scripting using LoadRunner, right, your component for scripting called Vusion. Okay, and then in Jmeter, you will use the Jmeter GUI itself to go and create a script. But K6 doesn't have any GUI to create the scripts. Rather, you can use the Visual Code IDE, like the way developers use Visual Code. You can also go and use the Visual Code, right? The scripting is a JavaScript based scripting. Okay, the way in LoadRunner you have C, right? If you have used LoadRunner, it's a C languages will be used in your scripting, right? And there is also a Java based scripting in LoadRunner. Similarly, in K6, it is JavaScript. Okay, so which means you can go and create the K6 JavaScripts in Visual Code. So you would need the Microsoft Visual Code to be installed in your machine, which is again open source, right? You can go to Microsoft and then you can download the Visual Code, or you'll also get an access to the Google Drive, in which all these softwares will be available. Either you can go find out and download it from the respective sites, or you can directly download it from my drive as well. Okay, and then you need InfluxDB and Grafana. From a reporting perspective, from an analysis perspective, these softwares you would require. And apart from that, Java and Tomcat is optional. I'll tell you later why it is required. So to get started, bare minimum is K6 and then your Visual Code. Okay, nothing else. Okay, fine. So We'll start with the K6 installations and Visual Code installation and installing few add-ons in the Visual Code. Okay, and we'll go over the K6 overview as to what are the different components available within K6 for execution, for scripting, for analysis. So we'll go over the introduction about the tool. Okay, and then we'll also go and set up something in the K6 cloud as well. Okay, there are two components. One, K6 will install it in the local. Okay, second, and again, this is the Visual Code I was talking about. Whatever you're going to create, it is going to be .js. Like you have the user script .usr in LoadRunner or .jmx in Jmeter. Similarly, in K6, it is going to be .js files. Okay, you'll use Visual Code the way I'm showing it here. You'll use the Visual Code to go and create the script. Okay, and you also need one more component called K6 Cloud. Okay, K6 Cloud, you can go and create a login in k6.com. Okay, the way it is going to work is K6 provide two things. One is open source, one is the commercial. Okay, you can very well use K6 for your scripting, you can do it for execution. There's no restriction at all. If at all your project, your company is willing to use K6 commercial component, where K6 will provide you load generators. They will provide an UI where you can go and monitor your test. You can analyze your results, right? So it is an enhanced version. If at all your company, your project is wanted to go and pay money to K6 and use their load generators and then execute the test on the cloud, that is where you're going to go and pay money. That's only optional. You can very well use your own load generators and then you can go and execute a test. Yeah. So this you have to go and register it in the app.k6.io, and you will be able to go and access couple of things from a trial perspective. You can go and execute few tests. You can go and use these a scripting component. You can download the recorder for recording your UI script. You can also go and construct scripts for the APIs, right? All these things are possible from the cloud, so it will make your job a little easy. Okay, I'll show you all these things one by one from tomorrow when we go into start with the configuration and all. But the on top of Visual Code and your K6 installation, you will also go and register with your Gmail IDs to K6 Cloud, app.k6.io. You will go and get a subscription. Okay, those are the few prerequisites which you would need for you to learn and practice as part of the course. Okay, fine. So we will go over these overview in detail anyway, starting from tomorrow. Okay, once we are done with your tool configurations, overview of the tool, what are the components, why it is going to be used, right? General introduction will be done. Then we will move over to the
Yeah, Satish. Sorry to interrupt you in middle, Satish.
yeah, Rahul.
The thing is that you said that we have major advantages for K6 when compared to Jmeter or other tools, which are popular tools. In which way it is much more efficient than other tools? I understand that load generators we can use with more number of users and we can keep much load with this K6 load generators. Apart from it, are there any major advantages?
I'll take this question at the last after giving this overview, Rahul. I'll come to this question for sure. Okay,
Sure, thanks.
I'll just finish. Yeah, I'll just finish this and come back to that question. Okay. Yeah. So we'll get started with the scripting of your. There are two category, right? One, you will have your microservices, your APIs. So we'll first start with the scripting for APIs, microservices, and then we'll go for the scripting of your user UI based application, web based applications, where you might need to do a recording and do the scripting. Whereas for the microservices, or for the APIs, you will look into the documentation, API documentation, right, from your developer, and then you will go and construct the get methods or post methods or put methods, right? So what we'll do is we will go and get a sample documentation, requirement documentation. Most of the time, Swagger is very popular API documentation, right? Developers these APIs, and all the definitions will be available in the your Swagger like documentation. Okay. So whenever there's going to be a deployment happen for all the services, the definition of all the services is going to be there. Okay, this document will be used for your functional testing. This document can be a requirement for our performance testing scripts, also for the other third-party development team, for them to integrate with these services also. They'll be looking into this requirement document. Okay, so we'll go over this Swagger, okay, where the definition of get calls, your put calls will be there, and then we'll take a couple of examples, couple of APIs, and see what is the endpoint, what is the your body, what is your header. With all these things, we'll go and construct our K6 scripts. Okay, so in general, when you go and in the project, whenever you're going to go and do a scripting for your microservices or APIs, we will get this requirement in a couple of ways. They might be even sending it over an email saying this is your sample request, sample response, your headers. If it is a very small project, couple of APIs, you might get it through emails. Or in some cases, we go and discuss with the functional testing team. We go and get their Postman collections to look into all the APIs, or we can get directly from the developers as well through this. Once we get the requirements, we go and look into all the APIs, and obviously whatever APIs we have to go do a load testing. For those APIs, we'll go and do the scripting. Right. So we'll go over how to look into the Swagger document, how to create scripts, and once the scripts are created, obviously any script, you have to do a parameterization to provide the dynamic inputs. You have to do a correlation to handle the dynamic responses. You have to handle the errors so that your scripts are passed or failed based on certain criteria. And then as I said, from a concept perspective, any script is going to be a script. Any tool you use, this is not going to change. So parameterization, correlation, error handling, all these things we will see how to use K6 functions, K6 libraries to and correlation and error handling. Same thing we will repeat for the UI as well. So UI will use e-commerce application. K6 themselves provide a sample application, e-commerce application similar to your Amazon or Flipkart, right? They have a sample application which you can use it to go and select a product dynamically and then add it to a cart, do a checkout, make a payment, right? All these things are possible here. It's a test site. Okay, you can play around. So we'll use this to go and do a recording. Okay, and then we'll go and do a similar parameterization, correlation. Few things might be different when it comes to correlation between your microservices and the web-based scripting. So we'll go over all these as well as part of the second topic, right? One is scripting of the microservices, and then followed by the scripting of your UI-based applications. Okay. So once the scripting is done, second is going to be your execution, right? So we'll try to understand what are the various scenarios available, right? What are the various scenarios available, scenario configurations that are available within K6, and how are we going to use it? How to apply the runtime settings. See, in LoadRunner, if you have used it, right, it's all UI based. You go and pick what you want, like your number of iterations, durations, how to ramp up to how to do a ramp down, when to do a ramp down. All these things are all just a click of things in your UI, right? But here it is going to be little bit complex because you are not going to have a UI. You have to put everything in the script, right? Everything is through JavaScript. But again, it's all templates. Though it is complex, once you use it for one script, it's going to be same for everywhere. So typically in a project, you're going to have a template which you're going to create it, which can be used for any of your scripts. So all these scenario settings, scenario creations, the way you want to do a ramp up, everything is going to be you have to write it inside the script, but it's going to be reusable, right? Nothing that you're going to rediscover every time. So we will go and learn how to create those scenarios, how to apply the runtime settings. And then I was mentioning you, there are two ways of doing execution. You can do execution in your local machines. There's no licensing, nobody is going to stop how many agents you'll use, how many users will use. There's no restrictions. And then second is, if at all you wanted to run this in the K6 in the cloud, that is also possible. You have to pay money to K6, but from a trial, you can still go and do a limited execution in cloud. Okay, so we'll look into both the options. Okay, and then comes your result analysis and reporting. If you're going to use a K6 over the cloud, it's very straightforward, like your performance center or LoadRunner. You will have an UI where you will be able to monitor the test. You will be able to look into the report. There is nothing additionally you need to do anything. But we are going to K6 since it's an open source, right? So which means we might be ending up mostly by doing it in our own load generator machines. So K6 doesn't have any UI to monitor your test, to get the report. Okay, so there are going to be additional add-ons, additional libraries, InfluxDBs, Grafana. There are a set of additional things we may have to do it to bring in some HTML reporting or reporting in Grafana. So we will go and look into what are those in detail. What are libraries you may have to import additionally, how to generate the HTML reports, how to bring in a customized data into the report, how to send the results to InfluxDB, and then to create dashboards in Grafana, right? All these things we'll be looking into it from a analysis and reporting. Okay. And while you do a scripting or execution for analysis, throughout all these different activities, you will be using some of the K6 their own utilities and functions. Okay, so we will have a separate session on these anyway. But while we do a scripting, while we do enhancement, we will also touch upon this here and there, right? You're handling the random strings or random files, writing something into a file handling, right? All these things would need additional add-ons or utilities or functions. So we'll have a separate session on what are those frequently used utilities and functions, exception handling. All these things we'll be also looking into it, which will be mostly required in our day-to-day project. Okay. All these things are whatever I've been talking about is more from the load testing, right? Creating a scripts, enhancing it, executing it, analysis, reporting, add-ons, everything from a typical load testing perspective. K6 is also having one more interesting component for measuring the end user experience. Okay, end user experience is like you open the site. For example, if I open this e-commerce site, right, I click this, okay, and it might take 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds to load. This is my end user experience. What is my, as an end user, I'm experiencing 8 seconds. Okay, but when we are going to edit this URL through a load testing tool like K6 or Jmeter, their tool might look into the response when the response is coming back. Okay, it won't look into whether the screen is rendered or not, screen is painted or not. All it will look for is whether the last byte is received. Okay, so which means there is going to be a significant, not a significant, but there is going to be difference between what a load testing tool report versus what you and me as an end user will experience. If it is 8 seconds is what we are going to experience, load testing tool might report 6 seconds or 5 or 7, depends. But it is not going to be same. So as a performance tester or a performance engineer, it is very important that we capture the end user experience also. because that is what your end user is going to visualize it, right? So along with the load testing, so load testing is done for making sure your server is able to handle the load, thousands of users, whether the server is able to handle the load. And you will also create end user experience scripts, okay, and then run it along with your 1000 user load. So from a typical load testing scripts, you will have 1000 users loaded, and with your end user scripting, end user experience script, you might run it for 1 user or 2 user or 3 user from Chrome or some from Firefox. Okay, so we'll also try to learn what end user experience concepts, what are the typical metrics you might need to look into it, and we'll also just go over the developer tool and try to understand how it is done manually. Okay, we'll also look into some of the basics of UI scripting from locators, objects. Okay, and then we'll try to see what are the additional add-on that is required for end user experience. Okay, there's something called XKSX browser needs to be installed, and then we'll go and create some scripts, and then we'll execute it and then see how the report is going to be and how to enable the reporting for end user experience. Okay, so this is going to be a very interesting topic, very relevant topic, end user experience for many places wherever you go. I think client side performance or end user performance is something is expected in most of the places nowadays. We'll also try to learn how to use K6 for end user measurement. Okay, and some of the interesting topics, additional topics as well. As I said, InfluxDB and Grafana, we will anyway cover it while part of the reporting. Okay, though without even Influx and Grafana, you can still go with some other HTML reporting, but Influx and Grafana is something really required. We'll also go and look into it. And JavaScript basics. Again, though we are going to create JavaScripts .js files for your scripting, it is not really mandatory for you to know JavaScript. If you know it, it is well and good. If not, you can still manage it. For example, LoadRunner, though it is a C language based, right? None of us are expert in C. Okay, but over the time we might have learned how to create the logic for file handling or for your string handling, string manipulations, right? Similarly, you will also learn how to use it as you go, but we will look into some of the basics of JavaScript, which will help you to understand or use cases little bit effectively. Okay, but obviously the idea is not to learn JavaScript as from a development perspective. No, it is more from the K6 perspective. We will look into the basics. Okay, and one more thing also, there is something where there is some plugin, some utility available which can convert your Swagger to scripts by itself. Okay, as I was mentioning, right, you go to the Swagger documentation, you pick the get call, post call, right, and then you can go and construct the scripts on yourself. It's not a time consuming one. Okay, but there are some utilities available which can actually do this by itself. We'll also look into those options. Okay, so overall, this again, this beginner level course is very much intended to introduce K6 from the components, how to use it, scripting of microservices, scripting of your web-based application, execution, various scenarios, reporting, analysis, end user experience. That is the depth of information which we wanted to teach and share it through this course. Okay, fine. I'll pass it here. Okay. If there are any questions, I'll take it. I think already there was a question, couple of questions came in. One, sessions will be recorded and shared later. Yes, the sessions will be shared. The recording will be done and the recordings will be available in the next day. Okay, there'll be a maybe if the session is happening, say today 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow noon, right, by 1 or 2 max, you will get the recorded video, and that recorded video will be always available for you for next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. There is no limit. Okay, yeah. Number two, the question is in what way K6 is going to be advantage apart from
Adding
few
to that,
advantage. Yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Satish. Adding to that, just very much curiosity to know that whether we have inbuilt functions in K6 also, just like in LoadRunner.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of inbuilt function which you have to import it, like to read the test data from CSV files, to handle some JSONs, to handle strings, to write into your files. There are a lot of inbuilt functions which you have to import and use it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we'll go over those one by one. I don't know whether I have some reference here. Uh, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, anyway, we'll go over those things in detail. There are, to answer your question, yes, there are. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, to answer the other question, from the advantage, um, see, again, there are two ways into looking into it. One, it's open source. That is one of the advantage when it come to compare to your new load or load runner. When you wanted to move out, when your project teams thinks that they are spending too much of money, right, to move out from LoadRunner or new load, right, from an open source option, Jmeter is there already, and then K6 is a new tool. Okay. Second is, um, uh, as I said, K6 is a JavaScript based tool, and um, many of the places, it is getting started. This K6 journey is getting started with the developers. Okay, from microservices, from scripting and doing execution, as part of the shift left, right? Whenever they develop a service, they wanted to do a testing and make sure that there is no performance issue. That is a shift left, and developers want to do it. So developers like K6 compare to Jmeter. Forget about LoadRunner or NeoLoad, because in the shift left, they don't want to go to commercial. They want to use only open source. Right? When come to Jmeter versus K6, developers prefer K6 because of the scripting language which they are comfortable. Okay, and they have now they have created 5 6 10 scripts for microservices, and they are doing execution now. After some time, it will come into a testing team, right? They want to make sure that we do a proper testing and certify it. Now, since K6 has already been used, okay, and scripts are already available, few scripts are already available, obviously the push is going to be, if you already have LoadRunner, I think nobody is going to question you why are you using LoadRunner. But if you're going to use open source tool, then the push will be to standardize your tools, not use the Jmeter for testing a team, K6 for development team, because you also create scripts. You will also give that scripts to development team for them to run it in the continuous testing pipelines, right? So using the common tools, then you will be forced to use the K6. So though we cannot go and point out advantage of K6 versus Jmeter, it's not. In fact, Jmeter are going to be Jmeter supports a lot of protocols. Okay, but the K6 today, um, from a reliability perspective, it is very good for services, microservices, all your REST APIs. Very good. Definitely, you can go and use it. No question about it. UI, yes, UI also you can definitely use it, but you might have challenges. You might have um, compared to JMeter, it is still not evolved a lot. Okay, but it is still it is still supporting it. You can still use it. But other protocols, whatever Jmeter might support, right? You will not get that extended support in K6. So from a real advantage perspective, see, nobody is going to go and if your customer is asking, your project team is asking, propose a tool. Okay, I don't want a commercial tool. Okay, then when it comes to Jmeter or K6, the preference is up to the team. If the team is already knows Jmeter, they will recommend Jmeter, no questions. Really, we don't need to go and recommend K6 over Jmeter. There's no real push, okay, because they are on par, no question about it. But in the way we are looking here is, the team, if they are already asking you to use K6, they're not asking you to select the tool. They're asking go and use the K6, because already K6 has been approved in their community, and you have to use K6. That is where K6 will come into picture. We are not we are given a choice we might still prefer Jmeter because there is a large community around with a lot of supports, very robust, very well proven tool, right? So we'll still go and prefer Jmeter only. There's no doubt. But a lot of places nowadays, in the places where DevOps is there, development team is doing the testing by themselves, their K6 is preferred. So we will end up using K6. Okay. Um, so that is how I will put when it comes to advantages of one tool to another tool. It is not really one tool should have a lot of advantage. It is more than that. The choice of the project teams will push us to use the K6. Okay, and for microservices, for REST APIs, I would say definitely there's only a project where microservices are there, APIs are there. You can definitely go and recommend K6 because of it's a lightweight load generation, and even scripting and all these enhancements are pretty much easy in K6. So for microservices, yes, definitely there's advantage. When it comes to UI, if you are given a choice, select a tool. I think the wise decision is to select Jmeter only. But if you are asked to use K6, then you should definitely know how to use it. Okay, that's how it has been done in all the places. Okay, people don't go and recommend K6 directly. Okay, but if depending upon the project, depending upon whether it's microservices or not, depending upon if there's no choice, if you have been asked to do it, you will end up doing it. If you are given a choice, then you will analyze, is it a services, microservices, or UI, then you will go and recommend it. Okay, what features will be missing if you don't have access to K6 Cloud? How much load can I generate without a license? Can I still do reporting without license? Okay, what ideally, um, from a feature perspective, you will not miss anything. Okay, all the functions, all the libraries, everything you'll be able to use it without paying any money to K6. Okay, if you go to K6, you pay money, they provide you missions. As simple as that, right? Like the way you use the cloud. If you're going to use the offline K6, installed K6, you will have your own missions. So which means load generation is also not a missing feature. Okay, the reporting capability, the live monitoring capability is the one you will miss it. But you can. There is a lot of options available to overcome that. Though it won't be 100% perfect with what you might get it in the cases cloud, but there are workarounds. There are good workarounds which you can definitely manage. From a live monitoring, we are going to use InfluxDB and Grafana. From a reporting perspective, also you can use Grafana and the HTML reports which you can generate it. Okay, so from a missing feature, I would say live monitoring and reporting, but there are good workarounds available. It is not 100% perfect like what you might see it in the K6 cloud, but you can definitely manage it. Okay, can I still do? Okay, how much load can I generate without a license? Okay, see, without a license, you can do some trials, just run some try runs, but you cannot do more than, I think, 50 or 40 um, concurrent users. That's what it does. They give it using a trial license, which means there is no way you can manage with K6 Cloud. Okay, just to do some dry runs, some smoke runs, you can use the K6 Cloud, or for you to learn or do a POC on the K6 Cloud before purchasing a license, right? Those things you can do it, but yeah, you cannot manage your project with some just with the trial licenses. Can I still do reporting without license? Yeah, you can still do all the reporting without the license using the alternate method, which we will learn. So answer to the question is yes, it is possible to do a reporting without license.
Can I ask one question, Satish?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, since we know, right, Jmeter doesn't render JavaScript functions, right? So let's say consider that, like, the modern applications, everyone was moving to the React.js, AngularJS applications. Okay, so if you do a performance test on the React.js website application using Jmeter, the way that we receive the response, it is not rendering HTML pages, right?
Mhm.
So how we to overcome in K6? Can we see the HTML pages while doing a, like, performance test?
No, there are a couple of things you're asking. One is for React JS based application,
Yeah.
where single page application. First, you initially application will be loaded, and then subsequent clicks, you will not get a HTML document. Rather, it will be a say Ajax calls where you get a JSON response. Only a component of the page is going to change. Right, that is the
Yeah.
behavior of your single page application. So from a request response perspective, um, it's going to be HTML load followed by couple of your API calls, right? That's how it will be communicating. So there, I don't see a challenge. Even in JMeter, it's going to be the same. Um,
Hmm.
so what specific challenge you see that in JMeter when it comes to these kind of communication? Can you elaborate on that?
So, like, just consider login functionality where that
Mm-hmm.
when you click on login, it calls JavaScript function.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I recorded a script and I executed the performance with single user, like, no, with single user try and rest, and I got the response. I'm going to view the tree and check the HTML page, but I'm not able to see the
Mm-hmm.
HTML pages. It was Jmeter saying that Jmeter does not render the JavaScript functions. So
Correct, correct, correct.
I don't know whether it's really loaded the page or not.
Okay, okay, okay. See, definitely right. The because they are not going to use any real browsers. So from your validation perspective, the way we are going to validate is whether the response is going to come out, right? And then one of the response in the API response, there's going to be a token, or there's going to be some kind of a confirmation message saying authentication is successful or not. We are going to rely on the response body. Using the response body, whether the UI is getting painted or not, it is not our from a load testing perspective, that is not going to be our criteria. Whether the UI is going to get painted or not, that is not going to be our criteria. Whether the response has come or not, that is number one. Once the response has come, whether the response is right, whether the token is generated, whether the API token is shared, or whether the confirmation message saying your authentication is successful, some kind of a proper response is coming or not, and then how fast the response is coming. That is what we're going to look into it from a load testing perspective, be it as a LoadRunner or Jmeter or using K6. But whether it is actually painted or not, we won't be able to validate it. If at all you wanted to do that as well, that is where your end user experience script will come into picture. There, the actual Chrome browser will get opened. Then actual login will happen, and then your UI will be painted, and then the screen validation will be based on particular object saying, say for example, once the login is completed, you will get a home page, right? Home page with say payment summary or your order history. So you can validate whether the home page is rendered or not. That you can do it using the UI based scripting. From a load testing, yeah, we will definitely won't be able to see whether the actual uh, rendering is happening. That is not possible, and that is not also required actually.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, yeah, here, like, with the realistic use case, because I got one problem where they were saying,
Mhm,
like, API is giving good performance, but when it comes to the web
mhm,
application, so
mhm,
some reason it was taking time to load the data.
mhm,
So
mhm, mhm, mhm.
on this case, will K6 help us?
No, no, none. See, none of the tool is going to help you to find out problems. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because these are testing tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for a particular login, it's going to be a combination of your HTML document, followed by couple of your API calls. It can be combination of, right, couple of JS, couple of CSS, couple of XHR calls, and there are going to be these Ajax based calls, which is actually going to generate your tokens. Okay, see, there are 20-25 calls, and each would be triggered maybe parallelly or sequentially, whatever it is. Individual service, you're saying it is doing good, but when it comes to web, it might be taking more time. That is where, see, when it do a load testing, still the way you do it in K6 or Jmeter, it's still going to put all those 10-15 requests into the server, and you're going to get the response, and you're going to get the response time. Okay, and if the response time is high, why it is high, K6 will not tell, Jmeter will not tell. That you need to obviously, normally what happens is, this is outside of your testing tool, right? What will happen is, when you go and look into develop a tool, there might be few requests which might be fired sequentially instead of parallelly, or there might be few 400 calls or 500 calls or redirect. See, in that cases where the developer sees that my API is doing good, but when the UI is slow, you may have to go and look into the network calls. That is where the client-side profiling will come into picture. Okay, so that is where your engineering team will also come into picture to analyze why my web is slow. Right, as it is more of a engineering thing, more of analyzing your calls in the developer tool, but your testing tool will not have an answer for that. Testing tool will just try to simulate all those requests, send it to the server, and measure the response time. It won't be able to, it won't say you why your web is slow.
Okay, right. So
Yeah.
is this same with the Lighthouse as well? Because the Chrome plugin that we have, right? So where it gives some kind of for client-side performance
Yeah.
metrics. So how
Mhm. Yeah,
Lighthouse does
it is.
compare with this K6, like in terms of UI performance? Do you know about it?
Okay. Okay. It is, mm, the both the purpose are a little different. I'll explain you while I come to that session. Okay. See, Lighthouse, yes, you can definitely use it for your homepage, wherever you have direct URLs, right? You can use it. But for a flow-based, you do a login, Lighthouse will not work. Okay, because the way Lighthouse works is, it will go and resubmit the page. So if you want to analyze your login functionality, Lighthouse will not do the login again. It will just go do a refresh. So for some pages, landing pages, Lighthouse will give you good analysis, but again, it is not reproducible. During a load test, I say for 1 hour load test, you're doing it, and you want to measure the UI response time parallelly for every 5 minutes. You want to go and execute a script which can measure you the UI response time. Lighthouse cannot do it, because Lighthouse you have to go and manually keep hitting it
Yeah.
manually. But if you have the K6 end user experience script, you will schedule it along with that. So there are advantage with the K6 UI script, but Lighthouse as a standalone, it is meant for profiling. It is meant for doing some good analysis. So both are different purpose. So you cannot really go and compare it.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Satish.
No problem. So sessions are going to be happening between same time, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, IST. So any questions regarding the enrollment or payment, you can reach out to Kumar sir. Any questions regarding the course content or applicability of the course for you, anything on the top, in the same group, WhatsApp group, or you can message me as well. Both are okay. Okay. So I think if there are any questions, we'll take it up last 2 minutes, or you can also reach out to me in the WhatsApp group directly.
We're thinking approximately 2 weeks for this training, right?
Yeah, yeah, approximately. That's correct.
Okay.
10, 11 hours. Yeah, approximately.
Hello, Satish. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hello, Satish. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. I could able to hear you.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to ask for a little bit of adjustment. So not everyone here joining is Indian. So if you speak too fast, we may not really comprehend what you're saying. So I just want to beg and implore you to reduce your speech speed so that we from other nationalities and with different accents can assimilate and comprehend what you're saying. There's a lot of stuff and that you mentioned and that you say that we pronounce differently that we are not able to comprehend. So I'm just saying because we are going to continue the course for the next 2 weeks. So please, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I could able to, fine. I will try to adjust the tone and the speed. We'll try to do that. Sure. I appreciate your feedback on that. Sure. Okay, fine, cool. Yeah, thanks, guys. We'll stop it here. We'll start the session from tomorrow. Meanwhile, as you said, any questions, reach out to Kumar sir or me in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, thank you.